let's talk compression.
This is a brand new unit from Warm Audio, the WA76-D. Now, if you're any bit familiar with Warm Audio, you'll know that they've had an 1176 out for quite some time. This is a refresh. This, I believe, is replacing all of their older units. Going forward, they're going to be selling these and the RevD. Now, those are their new mono units, but they also have stereo units. Now, you might be thinking, oh, they have 1178 remakes now. No, they don't. Their stereo units are just that, stereo 76s. The 1178 circuit is actually quite different. Their stereo 76s are not. They're the same as just having two of these. Now, one thing I really do appreciate, as vain as it sounds, is the new knobs, the new kind of redesign for the controls. Anybody who's familiar with these guys knows that their classic compressors had their own kind of unique knobs. They went and found some matching knobs to the original style. But anyway, this has everything that you're probably used to seeing. Input knob to crank the amount of signal going into the unit. Output knob, so you can change the final output level of the unit after the compression. The attack knob, and the release. And of course, staying true to the 76 design, attack and release are slower this way and get faster as you turn the knob to the right. And then your ratio switches, 4:1, 8:1, 12:1, and 20:1. And this can do several and or all buttons in. So if you just press them all in like that, gotta be pretty firm with it, but they are all pressed in. And if I go ahead and press 8:1 again, now it's just 8:1, 4:1, and you can do combinations of any of these. So 4 and 8, 12 and 4. Now I don't think it's just simple math here, like 4 and 12 isn't gonna make 16:1, 44:1. I don't think it's that way, and it isn't that way on any real current or classic revision. And then over here you have your meter options, plus 8 dB going out, plus 4 dB going out, and then off. Pretty much always you're gonna want it in gain reduction meter, but it's nice to have all these other options. Now, what makes this unit special and what they've added compared to not only your classic 1176 design, but also from their old unit. In my opinion, the most useful, a wet and dry blend. You don't have to fiddle with sends or any kind of settings in your DAW. You can do it right here. And all the way to the left, there's this click that lets you know when you're in that clicked position, you're not sending any of the dry signal out. And then beneath that, we have a sidechain high-pass filter. It also has that click to let you know that it's completely off. You can go from 30 Hertz to 300 Hertz, and that is a low cut to the compression signal to tell it, hey, if you detect anything below 300 Hertz, let's say, don't compress it. It's still going to send it out, so it's not any EQ, but it's just a low cut to the detection circuit. The low end is too powerful, it's triggering your compression too much. Let's dial that back a tiny bit to make it a bit clearer, for example. We have a link switch, so you can hook two units together, actually more than two, I think up to 10. One can be the master unit, one can be the slave unit, so that all these controls control a different RevD. It's not recommended to kind of mix and match, so if I wanted a stereo pair, I would not get a RevA and link it to this. I'd get another RevD. And then also an external sidechain, so you do have the option on the back to send a sidechain input into it to do like some classic ducking out of the way of the kick drum or something like that. And then finally over on this side, we have an impedance switch. Now this is actually pretty unique. I don't think I've seen this on any other 1176 clone. So typically out of most interfaces or converters, you're going to be perfectly fine in the 10K ohms setting, but you do have the option to go to 600 ohms. I'd keep it in this option if you are sending a signal straight from a preamp. I'd put it here if you're just sending it out from your DAW. And then a bypass switch bypasses everything in it. So it just goes from the input to the output. You're not getting anything here. One more final little secret feature is the off level in the attack. There is another one of those little clicky switches, and when you get down there, you are in kind of a soft bypass. So then you can use the unit as kind of a coloration box. It goes through the internal circuitry and out, but it does not pass through the compression. So you're not going to compress it any, but you are sending it through actual analog hardware for some of the saturation and box tone. So having gone over everything, let's see how it sounds. All right, so I've got a quick session pulled up here with some files from a song called Do Something by Sycamine. Put them down in the description. So first we're gonna try out some vocals.
Who knows what I'll be doing when I graduate from high school and my songs are no longer cool to myself. When the bias starts fading, will I spend my time erasing all the effort of the tracks under my belt? Who knows what I'll be doing when I graduate from high school and my songs are no longer cool to myself. When the bias starts fading, will I spend my time erasing all the effort of the tracks under my belt? Who knows what I'll be doing when I graduate from high school and my songs are no longer cool to myself. When the bias starts fading.
I think that's decent, kind of evens it out a little bit. I'm gonna see how much I can push it on this vocal until it just doesn't do what it's supposed to do anymore.
Who knows what I'll be doing when I graduate from high school and my songs are no longer cool to myself. When the bias starts fading, will I spend my time erasing all the effort of the tracks under my belt? Who knows what I'll be doing when I graduate from high school and my songs are no longer cool to myself. When the bias starts fading, will I spend my time erasing all the effort of the tracks under my belt? Who knows what I'll be doing when the bias starts fading? Will I spend my time erasing all the effort of the tracks under my belt? Who knows what I'll be doing when I graduate?
I mean, I have it pegged. I can definitely hear some distortion for sure.
High school and my songs are no longer cool to myself. When the bias starts fading, will I spend my time erasing all the effort of the tracks under my belt?
I mean, absolutely usable. It wasn't very dynamic vocal, but it got it under control with crazy amounts of compression, and I didn't hear any kind of artifacting or anything that just straight up wasn't usable. So let's go over now to kick drum. So let's listen to it bypass. Obviously, a kick drum sample, something that's, you know, already maybe been messed with, but so here we can really start to hear the clickiness and just how quick this thing can be. Let's go all buttons in. That starts to break up and distort really quickly. There we go. So let's go put it on a snare. Bypass first. Obviously, again, sample, something is already being done, but let's see. bringing in a lot more of that room, a lot more of that sustain. Let's slam it. Let's take this attack into the off position. I mean, that is a crazy nice breakup of the sound. Now let's try some parallel stuff with the mix blend. Let's just go crazy. So dry, gets loud. Or what? Ah, bypasses the output. Did not know that. So we're adding some of that clip to the dry signal. All right, so what do I think about it? What kind of purpose does it serve to me? This is a really nice little box. In my opinion, I do think it is a little bit more faithful, original sounding than their previous 1176 was. Not to say that that was bad by any regard, it certainly wasn't, but this, I think, strikes it a little bit closer. I've only had this for about a day in my own studio, but I have used their original 76 extensively in other studios around me, and I've also used plenty of genuine Uri 1176s and UA Classics type. They all have their own unique, distinct sound, and even if I bought another one of these exact units, they'd still sound just that tiny bit different. And manufacturing tolerances back in the day weren't as tight as they are able to be today. So is that difference going to be absolutely minuscule? Absolutely. But a classic vintage 76 one studio and a classic vintage 76 at another studio are not going to match. So I think that that's something to take into consideration when you're buying outboard hardware. I'm basing my expectations off of Warm Audio's provided sample material that they've done in their YouTube videos and on their website, and the material that they've paid reviewers and other YouTubers to do. I'm not one of them. I bought this with my own money because I thought it would be useful to me. I know I didn't spend a lot of time and I didn't have a wide variety of things to sample on it for you guys. I've been using this thing all day and all last night, and I do think it has a place for me here. I have done testing between this and some of the Universal Audio 1176s that I have because they're what I use all the time. When I first got it, I did have kind of a dilemma of where does this go? What purpose do I want this to serve? Do I want it for mixing or do I want it for tracking, living in this little area back here? I'd love to fill that up with more stuff. I really do. It's looking pretty bare at the moment. There isn't even any gear in shot. Now, of course, I have 3 patch bays. I could easily use this for tracking if I wanted, but it's slotted into my desk in front of me for mixing. That's what I decided to have it for. The reason I ended up deciding that was because of the mix knob. I do plan on very soon grabbing some Audioscape gear. Now those, by comparison, are very bare bones, I should say. They're not really, but it's just that this thing packs so many extra added features as compared to a classic. They don't have a sidechain high-pass filter. They don't have a mix knob. They don't have impedance switches. When I do get this Audioscape, that's going to be my tracking vocal compressor, and it's going to live in my tracking rack. And when that day does come, however soon that is, I'll do a shootout. I'll do a proper blowout between each. This warm audio unit, I do plan to use it really extensively on the mix side, and I already have in some projects. Like I said, I've been using it all day. Unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to share any of those, so you'll just have to take my word for it, however much that means to you. I've found a nice sweet spot for it thus far on snare drum. Typically what I'll do almost every time is, if it's a real drum kit and there's a snare top and a snare bottom, I'll just bus those together and then take that bus out to the 76. So I still have full control over them, but can treat them as a snare altogether. And I've had a very good time having it live on those snare buses. Compared to the plugins I use, it is a very small difference, admittedly, but add that up track by track, and the sound you get with this guy, the warm audio, there's a bit more of a front to back 3D presence, and certain words that the plugins just sometimes can't handle for whatever reason, this guy can. Like we saw earlier, I was pushing this thing to its absolute fucking limit, and it was doing just fine. And I think at the end of the day, that's the biggest differences to me, to my ears. The front to back depth and just how much of a beating they can take before they start to wimp out. This has been my first ever gear review. I do have some others that I've been editing. One of them, all the footage is corrupted, so I don't know. Thanks for watching. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to me if you want to. It really does help. And hopefully, I'll be doing a lot more of these as well. So, I'll see you soon. Bye.